Okay, so as a property management company, we see this problem a lot. Let me flip my camera around. And what we're talking about here is locking mailboxes. And let me flip right back around. So we run into this problem pretty frequently where tenants don't return the keys to their locking mailbox. So there's reasons to have a locking mailbox. We're in Philadelphia. All of our rental properties that we manage are in Philadelphia. And sometimes, you do feel that there would be a vulnerability of potentially somebody stealing mail. So there's a valid reason to have a locking mailbox. However, when tenants move out, for some reason or another, we often find that they just simply don't return the keys to things, even to the property, or to the mailbox. I don't know what it is. It seems to be human nature to where we have a lot of difficulty when we're trying to onboard. When we begin property management of a new rental property, we have a lot of trouble getting from the owner the keys and access to the property. To the point where the owner will actually reach out even before we get access, asking about the marketing of the property or how the showings of the property has been going. And we respond to the owner saying, hey, no showings. We don't have an actual ability to get into the property. We actually need the keys. My point being is that there seems to be, with human nature, some kind of resistance towards giving up possessions or objects. I think it just seems to be somehow innate in certain people. So we've been with an owner that has an invested interest in us getting the property rented and getting the property shown to potential tenants. We have a real trouble getting the keys back. So when a tenant moves out, same dynamic. For some reason, they're no longer the legal users of the property. They just don't want to return the keys. Now, that's not a huge problem because when a tenant moves out, if they don't return the keys, I don't even know if you need to have it in the lease to charge the tenant for the fact that they didn't leave the keys, or to charge the tenant for the fact that they didn't leave the keys to the mailbox. So typically the mailboxes come with 2 keys. You might want to keep one set just to manage this situation. But even if if you do keep a key and the tenants take the other key, then it's an obvious tenant charge. So I would charge the tenants. Now, I certainly recommend putting this in the lease. So far better to put it in the lease, but I don't know if you need to have it in the lease to charge the tenant the reasonable cost of what it's going to be to replace that lock. So getting to the point is given the choice between having a locking and non-locking mailbox, I would probably say you might want to consider getting a non-locking mailbox for your rental properties. If you do have a locking mailbox, not a big deal, because when the tenants move out, if they didn't return the key, if you were smart, you put it in the lease. If not, you could probably still handle the situation just by charging it. Still is a valid charge. Certainly put it in the lease though, and make sure you actually put a hefty charge in there for the aggravation. So these locks can actually be replaced, so you don't have to replace the entire mailbox. Sometimes if it's an inexpensive mailbox, since they merely just go on with 2 screws and you just lift the mailbox up and on, and if you can get the identical mailbox, just take that one off that you can't get into and just put the new one in, you're saving a fortune on the labor. You're really going to Home Depot or Lowe's or replacing that mailbox if it can still be found. However, if it's a more expensive mailbox, it can certainly be drilled out. Even a homeowner can drill it out. You don't need a contractor to. You can buy a replacement lock set that just screws in on the back. Not a big deal. You can get it from Amazon very easily. Just replace that lock. But this is time and this is energy and this is money. So you have to make sure that your lease basically dictates that you're getting compensated for it. So you want to be compensated to buy that mailbox. You need to be compensated for your trip to Home Depot or Lowe's, or to even go onto Amazon and order it. And then you certainly need to be compensated for the install. So whether or not you're installing it yourself or having somebody else. So make sure your lease really defines like, hey, we're going to charge you this amount of money if you do not return every key that we give you. Again, that pertains to door locks as well. So again, consider having a non-locking mailbox. If you are going to have a locking mailbox, I certainly understand that. I'm kind of on the fence on it. Tenant security, tenant safety, tenant functionality, you might want to have a locking mailbox. Just make sure that the expense of that is on the tenant, not you. And that's completely fair, right? I mean, what's the big deal of returning that key? They have the key. They've been accessing the mail all the time. They know they're taking the key. They're willingly taking the key. They should not be taking the key. They're not the legal users of that property anymore. After the lease end date, they are now officially trespassing. So if they go back and try to collect any past mail, that's not their right. They should have their mail forwarded. They are again trespassing. I'm not an attorney. I cannot give you legal advice, but my real estate broker, experience and knowledge that's trespassing, and that's not something they should be doing. So they are willingly taking this key, so it is a very fair charge. So just make sure to put it in the lease that you're going to charge them the cost of replacing the mailbox, charge them an additional administrative fee. All right, just a humble Philadelphia property management company owner, doing my very best to answer your rental property investing questions. As always, happy rental property investing.